Hello, thank you everybody for coming. Appreciate it, and thanks for that 1 minute of grace there. I'm Jeff Sheldon, I'm the director of the Sunderland Foundation Innovation Lab. There's some people here too, like Kevin Shippey and Shelley Griffin, who have been working with us in the past to plan the Sunderland Foundation Innovation Lab. In fact, you'll see them in some of the previous videos. And the group here has been instrumental both for planning and execution of the Innovation Lab. And so if you haven't already been to Hale, we certainly invite you to come by. But what I'm going to do is talk really quickly about what this even is. So like if you came in looking for snacks or something and you ended up in the wrong place, this is what the Sunderland Foundation Innovation Lab is. First of all, we are a partnership between K-State Libraries and the Division of IT. It's a true partnership. It was our foundational partnership. And so we've had people involved from both organizations working together to make this happen. And that's a very unique combination. It's a very good one. I've been to many other places where they have maybe the library is doing one thing and the central IT is doing another thing, and they don't quite meet up, or they're reproducing what they're doing. But for us, it's been a really good relationship. And just a quick plug about the Sunderland Foundation. So if you haven't heard of them, they operate out of the Kansas City area, and they work on a lot of brick and mortar efforts. So they're very, very philanthropic in nature. They had a long history in construction, and so they fund some very big projects, big and small alike, regionally. And so the the KU Cancer Center, which you may have heard about, I think that's over 100 million. That's something that they're sponsoring right now. And so the Sunderland Foundation Innovation Lab, when we were in planning, one of the things we came up with was our mission statement here. And it's the Innovation Lab is a space where all people are free to explore, learn, and share in a technologically rich environment. We facilitate inventive instruction and novel learning experiences. We create and serve community by connecting diverse individuals and groups, both on and off campus. I'm really proud that we got to this point where we came up with a real understanding of what it is and who we are. One of the nice things, too, is that we have the entire power of Kansas State University at our disposal, so to speak. Like we are a facilitator. We have partnerships across the university. We have partnerships across Kansas. And K-State is a real enabler in that scene. And especially now that we're getting back in touch with our land grant mission and K-State 105, a new initiative to really work in all of the counties of Kansas, all 105, that has really allowed us to spread our wings. And so we have 3 areas of focus: fabrication, data, and media. You'll notice that media is the largest one there. And if you think about it, they can all complement one another. Like data and media, we're seeing a lot of advances of AI in Hollywood and what we're doing on our computers, the way we promote ourselves, the way we promote different things, the way we create content. Fabrication, we're using AI now in things like 3D printing to watch for problems and whatnot, but also the ability to tell your story about what you're doing, what you're trying to create, how you're developing research, and so on, being able to promote yourself through that media angle. I mean, they all have different types of interplay, and we want to make sure that we're staying on top of all of these. The moment we say we're no longer going to do data, like we're no longer going to do AI or something, maybe we'll leave that to somebody else, is the moment we drop out of that game. And so data and AI, this is our AI studio and our Liquid Galaxy, and just some of the things that we can get either from other areas of the university or through donations or purchase. So we have, that could mean things like visualization, it could be making tangible items, it could be experimenting and programming, electronics. Fabrication, so the typical stuff that you'd hear about in a makerspace, like 3D printing, laser cutting, Cricut maker type stuff, hands-on crafts and such, sewing. Those are all things that we have in that space too. And it works really well when you have different areas of the university using you as a resource center, because they themselves are oversaturated. So we have people in different disciplines who come to us and rely on us to be there, because maybe their own college or department doesn't allow them access until the 3rd or 4th year. So these type of things, even if we see them all over the campus, they're vital for many people who don't have access to them. And we also make all these things available to the public, so anybody can walk in and use these things for free right now. And media, again, is a big one. So it means everything from immersive experiences to sound recording to video production to editing and playing around using things like Unity, Unreal, Adobe products, having access to the software that might otherwise be licensed and not available to the public. But again, getting K-State faculty, staff, students, and even some of our partnerships with other universities, getting access to these things and giving access to these things has been crucial. And then it all wraps around collaboration. Like we have sort of the family room approach. If you walk into the Innovation Lab, you have some shared spaces where you can talk about what you're doing. You can see what other people are doing. You can work on your homework or your research, and then you can branch off to the different locations where maybe you do more intensive work like we just showed. And we're also involved in, I mentioned K-State 105 and our land grant mission. So we're involved in a lot of the different activities at the university. So if our president's going out to a different location, generally we'll try to follow him out there if it's a public event. Or we work with, we've met with different universities. We've seen how they do the things that they do. Some of you are even familiar that we've been out to your spaces. So we're building those relationships up, and we're exploring what does all this mean moving forward? Like, you have a big behemoth of a university or a college or something that has a lot of different things like engineering and so on. But what does it mean to have a space like this? And then, so what's next? We're looking at how we can help with workforce development, professional development for teachers and different individuals. Certificates, micro-credentials. Increase those statewide partnerships, make them broader, develop stronger and stronger relationships. So that means, the Department of Commerce and all that. We meet with these different folks, and we want to make sure that we're playing our part, that we're not just some hole in the wall. And then increase staffing. We definitely want more people. Sustainable funding. How could I skip that one? Because sustainable funding is still something that is still, I can imagine some questions around that one. We have a lot to say about that. Technology and resource refresh. We've been around for 3 years now, and so we're looking at like what's next. And some of it we do incrementally change. Some things we are just finishing up that we hadn't gotten done in the first place. But we're already looking at like how can we go that next step, especially with things moving as fast as they are in technology right now. And then just some examples that we interface with different people, researchers again, people from the community, people from different walks of life, and we enjoy every minute of it. So some of you, if you do take a tour, we have the self-guided one. You can do it anytime. The URL's on the schedule at 5 o'clock. 5:15, if you want to meet me at the stairs, I'll be holding up this very tacky little check sign, so I'll be at the stairs down on the first, here on the first floor. And then at 5:40, if you just make your way to Hale Library, the directions are on the signage, digital signage. Then there'll be somebody there to meet you there while I'm still giving the other one. And here's our contact information. So as you're listening to all of us, so that is JahVelle, that is Charles, but this is more or less in order otherwise. They'll all introduce themselves in a minute. But as you're hearing us talk, if you'd like to contact any of us, please feel free to. And I'll leave it there at the moment. So again, I'm Jeff Sheldon, director, and my role is essentially to just keep the lights on and make sure that we are advancing things and to have the kind of conversations that help build up those relationships and partnerships, seeing what kind of things we'll get involved in, see how much scrambling about we need to do and fires we have to put out. But it's been really good. It's been really great. And what I'll do is then I'll hand it over to you. So name, title, organization you work under, because this is a partnership, we're split up. And then I would invite you all to be able to follow up on each other's questions or whatnot, and feel like you can jump on anyone's question here. So I'll let you go first.
The house as an IT coordinator, and my role in the lab is that I oversee IT equipment checkout and university operators. I'm going to focus on checkout, but the operators is a fun fact because that's something else we do. So whenever someone calls K-State, it's our phone that rings and we help direct it out. So what is IT equipment checkout? It's a service that we have for all of our faculty, staff, and students, provides equipment, primarily audiovisual equipment, but we do also have laptops, and it's something that we're always kind of looking at new items. And one of our focuses is to grant access to things that might be otherwise unaffordable to a student, for example, or even a department. So we're offering some pretty top shelf stuff as a free service. So I'm going to talk about some of our lessons learned, but first, I'm going to put some context of what happened. So in the last 3+ years, our service has grown dramatically. In 2021, we had 555 checkouts for the calendar year, and by comparison, in 2023, we had 1,962. Currently in 2024, for the first quarter of 24 compared to 23, we are up 42.62%. So how did we get there? That's what you guys are probably most interested in. So by becoming part of Sunderland, so I will note that myself and JahVelle, our services existed before the lab did, so we were pre-existing services, kind of got the boots on the ground first to get things rolling. And by moving into the lab, it gave us a chance to reimagine what this service should be, so it gave us some time to make changes. The ugly bear in the room was this is also when COVID's still going on. So one of the things there was that it was kind of a slow time, so that gave my team and I time to reevaluate our stuff. So that was the first thing we did. We evaluated our internal business practices, streamlined them to make them more simple, not only for the workforce, but also for the customers, and be less wasteful in general. We also changed our lending rules to move to a model where customers received equal treatment. So I'm going to highlight something that one of the important factors in this is resourcing. And so the original resourcing was relatively low, and that caused some, I'm going to classify it as odd, is the polite way to say, lending rules. So faculty got treated different than students, who got treated different than grad students. Certain items were only available for 1 day, some were available for 3 days, this one was 2 days, some were only available for certain people. So that's when I say we changed it to streamline it now. If you're the president of the university or an incoming freshman, you get the same treatment. So another thing that we did, and this has been critical for us, is we improved our metric collection, and I've been reporting those up the chain. So I reported to my direct supervisor as well as our CTO. And we'll get to why that's important in the next one, which is we have also been creating proposals for funding for additional equipment. So with our service growing, we're running out of gear. So by utilizing those metrics, making sure those are going up the chain, that's what's been helping when, so I'm gonna make an arbitrary number, but if I go, hey Chad, I need $100,000, that's what makes it possible that there might be a yes to that. So can't highlight that enough. Quickly, basically, as an ongoing model, we're going to continue to do those things. So part of my philosophy is always continuous process improvement. I also rely on my staff. So yes, I'm the supervisor, but I get with my staff and say, let's build this together. And that's changed the tone in the office to make it a more accommodating work environment. So quickly summarize, I know we are short on time today, and we want to give you guys time. Words of advice I have. So if you have an equipment lending program or wanting to develop one, have a clearly defined purpose. So set it out what you are trying to do, and then design your practices around that. And part of those practices would be how you resource it. Now, fair point, you may not know. So as you see, we keep trying to get more and more equipment because we have more and more people coming. So that needs to be part of your design, to reevaluate frequently and see what your needs are and then convey that up. Engage in continuous process improvement review regularly. So that already. The collection of metrics has been absolutely key. One thing to note, in addition to the raw counts that we do, we have also, and this is an area we could improve in, we collect user stories. So part of what has helped us too is getting things like, we had one user story which was from the events coordinator for the College of Arts and Sciences. They were using our video equipment, cameras and video cameras, to record and create promotional materials for the College of Arts and Sciences that they were using. One of their big points that they made was, we like this service because now we didn't have to spend several $1,000s on camera equipment because we can borrow it from you for free. Those stories matter a lot. Engage with your customers to make informed decisions. So what do they want? You might have to balance that out against some real world constraints. So this is a lending service, you have to be able to carry it off. So if somebody wants a bulldozer, not gonna fit in the office. So you have to keep that in mind, but keep an ear out for what are your customers looking for? Is it something you can accommodate? And then how can you help them along that way? And then the wrapper for all this, provide the best customer service you can. So take time to, if somebody's like, I've never used a camera, which one should I get? You know, be able to consult on that, make recommendations. Even if you set your rules, so for example, our rules are everything is a 1 week checkout. We also try to be flexible. So if somebody's like, hey, I know it's a 1 week checkout, but I'm going to Michigan for the motorsports, so this is a real one that just happened. We need a couple extra days because we're traveling in the conference and things like that. Accommodate that where you can. You're not always going to be able to meet some of the requests, but work towards that, and your customers will come back. And that's what we've been seeing happen. And also, we've actually had customers who have liked our service enough that they then hired on with us. They wanted to become part of our team. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my cohort, JahVelle Rhone.
Hey, thanks so much, Charles. My name is JahVelle Rhone. I'm a media director here at Kansas State University through the Division of IT. And I've served here at Kansas State for over 10 years now. A big part of my role, I guess initially, was part of chairing the committee for the Innovation Lab, and kind of we did a lot of kind of open forum type of interviews with faculty, staff, and students over a course of 3 years, and really, you know, garnered a lot of information before we made any purchases, before we made any significant decisions. And I also want to take a second to acknowledge Shelly and Kevin, who were a part of that team. And I know, you know, they may not be looking for recognition, but they were a significant part in the success and the moving forward of that space. So I just want to acknowledge them and give them kudos for all of their diligence and hard work. But continuing, throughout that time, we really were brainstorming, and we talked to several universities, Jeff and I, who co-chaired that cohort, to better understand, you know, what's the scape and what's the overall significance of a innovation lab here at Kansas State University, because, you know, we can build something and waste a ton of money, and then, you know, it equals nothing. But I think our overall goal was to really find something that would be a resource to our university, as well as be a pedagogical enhancement for the students, faculty, and staff. And so I think we're doing that. You know, I think part of the journey is finding that sustainability and finding that sweet spot as to, you know, both community, university, and faculty. So I'm going to get to what I actually do before we, you know, get too far into the conversation. So I am the media director. So I primarily serve as the, I help with the primary operations significantly when it comes to media. So I'm primarily overseeing the things on the first floor. A lot of that is the development of spaces, whether it be we created a partnership with Google with the Liquid Galaxy display that allows faculty, staff, or students to create their own, virtual display where they could travel anywhere within the world, or even create their own, virtual space, which has been a pretty significant tool within the space. We've also created a sound production studio. We had help from several experts in developing that space, and some which are billboard producers, on just how we approach that space when providing resources for our students. It's been an incredible journey to develop a space like that. Then we also have a media gallery, which is almost an immersive theater type of environment with 7.1 surround sound. It's a 3-wall short throw panel display type of immersive gallery where students can actually project three-dimensional, they can cast three-dimensional environments. So if you wanted to, you're an architecture student, you want to, maybe find a flaw in some architecture, or maybe you want to put an anatomical model upon a screen and display it and be able to rotate that within a virtual space, you could do that within this media gallery, which is pretty nice. And I'm just kind of giving you guys a quick tour of the space. We also have large format printing, so we do anywhere from your large tabloids to your significant posters, and even those large format printing and things like that. So we offer that as well. We do digital conversion. We do film, 2D design, 3D animation. of which I help to teach, and we've also created several workshops. Initially, through the first 2 years, there weren't really many workshops that were available, and I think a lot of that had to do with, one, the pandemic, because we were really kind of crawling our way through to figure out, like, how does this work in a hybrid environment? What does this look like? How can we roll this out slowly? And so a lot of it, we had time to kind of develop and see what works, what doesn't work, imaging, understanding what was needed as far as software, as far as hardware. Was it pretty? Absolutely not. It was definitely a struggle bus as far as, the communication aspect. There were tensions, there were frustration points. If I could offer any advice, it would be to, try and have weekly meetings with those who are involved in your projects. I don't know if you guys are planning on creating an innovation lab. Don't do it. But if you are, I would definitely say make sure you're having strategic weekly meetings with your team. So that when you actually get in that space, that you're all on the same page. And it just helps, with the overall communication and development of a space like that, especially when you're making a significant investment. It was a $2.5 million investment. And so we want to, one, be good stewards, but we also want to provide something that is actually functional and actually useful and actually a great resource, which we believe it is now. And I think the university president and his family kind of are seeing that. Which is a great thing. With that being said, we have the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite. So these are some of the softwares we have within the space. The Adobe Creative Cloud Suite, that's your Photoshop, your Illustrators, all those fun things. We have Final Cut Pro. We have Premiere Pro within that video space. We also have Logic Pro for the sound recording space. We have Pro Tools, basically all the industry standard. Within that sound studio, we house it's Apollo, or it's Universal Audio, which is a latency-free recording system. It's pretty much the standard when it comes to recording. When you talk about industry recording, it is state-of-the-art. We just finished up the video production studio, I think a few days ago. The epoxy still drying, which is a 12K video production studio. We had significant interest and help throughout that project. There were students who helped on that project. There were faculty. Jeff himself worked on that as well with me. But there were a ton of contributions within that space. We're really excited. We've already used the video production studio significantly already. The sound production studio is probably one of the most used resources within the lab. So that thing gets used probably as long as we're open, it's reserved pretty much. So if you're wanting to use that, go ahead and reserve that early. We see a significant uptick in traffic. We've gone from, anywhere between 1,200 visitors per month to I think now we're at 2,400 visitors per month, which results in 28,800 visitors per year. We've definitely, additionally, we've had more precise data and figures. We've had our students who have significantly helped in their contributions and understanding, who's visiting and why are they visiting, what are the needs of that space. And I don't want to talk too long, but we also use things like lab stats to better understand what faculty, staff, and students are using. We use things like, feedback. We do surveys at the end of workshops. We created a workshop called the Creators Haven Workshop, of which every seat within that space was filled. So we had over 124 visitors who took those different workshops throughout that last semester. And it contributed significantly to us better understanding the needs of our campus. And so now we're able to offer more workshops that are more honed to the needs of our faculty, staff, and students. And from that, we found that there are other needs associated with some of the resources that we have. So we're now thinking about and working to partner with different facilities throughout campus. And Tara's been a strategic person who's not here. Tara Coleman's been a strategic person in coordinating that. So with that being said, you talk about workshops. There we go. Throughout, we've been able to partner with the PRSSA Student Summit, which is a significant social media summit that Kansas City holds every year, and I was able to be a featured speaker there to kind of elaborate on kind of what we've done and kind of our journey to kind of help students, to guide them through that. And we've also, I mean, there's been several partnerships. We even do like K-State Social Media Week, which is it's a pretty significant thing. Again, my emphasis is media and the IT side of things. And so with that being said, I don't want to talk too long because I feel myself talking a lot. I'm going to pass it to Renee, and then we can get back to questions. But I would say if I were to offer any advice, it would be to, again, I'll reiterate, make sure you're meeting with your teams and communicating and tooling down and finding out what are the needs of the faculty, what are the needs of the staff, what are the needs of a student, as well as the community. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it to Renee Gates.
All right, I'm Renee Gates, and I'm the IT coordinator for the libraries. I was involved in this project before it was an innovation lab. We actually started in early 2018, late 2017. We'd had a donation to renovate our first floor, put in a bunch of collaboration rooms and some cool technology. We had one specific space on the first floor we were going to get. What these guys haven't told you is that in May of 2018, we had a fire in the building, and that destroyed a lot of the interior. So we had a complete renovation. What that gave us was the opportunity to have 2 floors for the Innovation Lab and really expand our offerings, or what we thought we were going to have. In the midst of that, we also had a pandemic before we moved in, so we've been through a little bit. And as each of those things happened, we had more challenges of, what equipment are we going to put in here? And now 2 years later, is that still valid? Because it was a long planning process and a long process to get to the point of actually purchasing the equipment. So we had a great team of people to work with, and in investigating those plans and the spaces that we had. One of the things that this is my one piece of advice, I guess, is find your champions. There was a point when Jeff and I went to present to some of our librarians what we envisioned for this space. And the first question we got asked was, when this fails, what will the space be used for? So we kind of had to do some rethinking on how we were presenting this so that they understood that they have a role in this too. And we don't expect it to fail. We expect it to grow so much that we hope to expand it at some point. So, changing that thought. And we do now have librarians who come in and teach classes in the space, who work with us on what equipment to purchase and things like that. So that's been a great benefit for us. So find your champions. I was involved a lot in the purchasing, and I guess one of the things that I'm most proud of is that I was actually honored to be able to teach the first class in that space. And unfortunately, because it was the pandemic, that was online. So I got to teach middle school and high school girls how to create a circuit, and actually we're able to ship out supplies to them, and we built a simple circuit online. And that was a really cool experience because they were actually helping each other, where somebody had, and when you think about people helping each other when they're not next to each other on a hands-on project. So it was a really cool experience to have. I have taught a couple of things since then, but because of my regular duties, I don't get a lot of time in the lab, mostly just when there's special events like the Digital Summit. So try to stay involved.
One thing real quick too, and you're with Library IT.
Yes.
Just to be very clear, that some of our internal partners are helping us in ways to develop the space. So she works with Library IT, and we use those IT resources, both the central IT, where some of these employees come from, as well as Library IT, and it's nice to have that sort of support.
Yeah, so some of my coworkers and staff do help with support for the Innovation Lab as well. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl so we can leave a little time for questions.
Yeah, I noticed the time was like slipping by really fast. So hi, I'm Cheryl, Bachelor Boothe. I am actually a direct result from their planning. Yay, I am 8 months in as my position, and I kind of run the hubbub of the lab. The students that are there, a majority of them, I have about 8 this summer during regular semesters. I have about 14, 15 of them, depending on what's going on. JahVelle does have students as well that are media service students that hone in on those specialties. But so we share the students within the space. But gosh, I was just going to talk a little bit about the student side of things and the ongoing challenges I've noticed so far. It's just that we're transient, right? Every semester we're going to win some, we're going to lose some, we're going to figure it out. I'm coming from a background of like 25 years in nonprofit, so I know what that looks like when it comes to like, oh, future, what are we going to do? How are we going to prepare for this? What makes us relevant? So that's because that's what keeps us around in our sustainability. So yay. But mostly the students and how training is constant, whether it's new tech coming in or whether or not it's new students coming in. So really I've been putting a lot of, allowing them to hone it and own it. And I really suggest that you guys do that if you're looking to something similar for them. I really was going to try to do it super short because I know we're running close on time. I rather answer questions, but I will be around just to put a plug in for all those tours that are going to be happening. I will be probably hanging around in the entrance on the first floor of Hale Library. It will not close until 8 o'clock tonight, the library itself. Our lab, we will be open until about 6 o'clock for anyone that wants to come in directly to lab, and I'll be around for any other questions. I think I was going to wrap back around for questions from you all.
Yes, those two microphones in either stairway. Please feel free to go up and ask any questions they should be on, and we'll be happy to answer them to the best of our ability. If you don't have questions, I have other questions.
Okay, I'll start you guys off. If you had to do it again, or if you had to change anything in the lab or any of the spaces, what would you change?
That's a good one.
That's a great question.
It's been in the back of my mind, actually, that somebody might ask that. But I'm wondering if anybody here might want to answer that, because all of you have different ways that the lab has meaning to you. And I mean, I will say, actually, I'll say really quickly, like, for me, there was something that JahVelle and I were told when we were co-chairing, and when I asked, like, what is it we were hoping to produce, like at the very beginning, I was told the sky's the limit, and so we're holding to that. It's like, if that means a separate building and that we're somehow serving the entirety of the university, if it means that we just stay where we are and we start working out new models, like branching out through library branches or through our research and extension across the state, or working with other universities to do sort of satellite-like locations, like these, we're up for anything there. And so, I mean, if we had to do it again, I think if we had more time in the beginning, we would look at how could that model start with a more expansive idea in mind than just the one little space. But we really thought we were doing like a makerspace, and we were going to do something small on one floor and kind of incorporate existing things. And it's really changed into something much bigger, I think. We do have that larger narrative, I think, now, and we get a lot of buy-in because we are attuned to what the university is hoping to do and what the needs of Kansas are.
I would add to that too, something that Jeff touched on. So my joke to my director recently was from Jaws, you're going to need a bigger boat. We are literally outgrowing our space. We currently don't have enough workbench space, and we are basically out of storage space at this point too. Jeff and I had a discussion about that at one time. And what I want to draw attention to is this is not bad decisions made by bad people. As you heard me talk about, our service has grown exponentially. And so that amount of space that we had was perfectly fine for when we started out. It's just that we've outgrown it now in 3 years. So.
And to even iterate, I mean, as far as the growth, I mean, the significance of every workshop that we did last semester being absolutely filled. I mean, within like the same day, and not having enough space or computers for faculty or staff to use. I think that speaks volumes of kind of what the growth that we've seen. And if to Shelley's question, if we could do one thing differently, I honestly think that we should. I would have wanted to start more in the community than here at the university. So what do I mean by that? I mean, tooling down to like the Chamber of Commerce here, who we've actually kind of built a relationship, we're building a relationship now with. But it would have been nice to kind of bring in community resources because I think that would have helped to better create sustainable relationships and resources for us. And I think that that could have created a larger sense of community buy-in and also help us define those needs of the community as well as meet the needs of the university. And that's something that we're still developing, but I think initially if we had initially had them in the conversation, it may have went a little bit differently, right? I mean, this is all transparency, so, yeah.
I think I would just build on that, having something that was like a town and gown relationship with the community and K-State. And I know Jeff has mentioned this before, maybe Ahern Fieldhouse. It's right on the edge where we meet, and having that ability to bring people in, have the space to do what we want. The other thing that I would probably consider is being able to have a road show, have a set bit of equipment and supplies that we could take out on the road, out to the counties, because we are an extension unit, so let's take that out on the road and show people what's possible.
Oh, maybe brought me on sooner. I do a lot of the function and flow of the things that happen throughout the day in the lab, whether it be random tours coming in or random chaos that is very fun to handle. So we're good to go, but I'm glad you guys have this position and picked me, so yay. Yeah.
So is it on? How do you turn it on?
Like, you can always come down a little closer if you want. Oh, there it is.
Okay, I have two questions. So first to JahVelle, how do you advertise the workshops?
Yeah, so we actually we have weekly meetings. And part of the objective was how do we market and how do we let people know about what's happening throughout campus. So Tara Coleman, who is our service coordinator for the space, actually did a collaboration with Tara, who is kind of the marketing person within the laboratory. And we created a listserv, as well as we went through several K-State mediums. I don't really know all of the promotional mediums, but I know that we utilize the ones that K-State has and some. And so that's significantly the way that we've been able to advertise. So it's through our listserv is one, and then also through K-State calendar is another one. And then what was the other one? There was is it like K-State?
She does advertise with the local arts community as well to kind of get them excited to come in. I know we've already done 2 different tours, and she also connects to the local public library.
Yeah.
And do they show up in the K-State Today as well? The
Yes.
workshops? Okay.
I'll add one thing real quick. Just as far as social media goes, some of that kind of goes out mostly through the library. In the partnership, sometimes it goes out through Division of IT. But we've also found that social media is kind of a fickle audience, and so we just try to really work those resources where, like, even a listserv, it sounds kind of old-fashioned, but like once you get people's interest, I mean, we opted in a lot of people that have been using the lab, but once you get those people, they tend to come back when they know what's available to them.
And my next question is to Cheryl. You mentioned with the students, you have them, did you say hone it and own it, or own it and hone it? Can you describe how you encourage that?
Sure. We have group meetings every other week where we get together, and I actually have 2 leads, 3 at one point in time. But what I do is I have them brainstorm, okay, what are you not familiar with? What would you like to learn more of? What did you hear about new tech that we maybe want to bring into the lab? So they kind of brainstorm amongst themselves, and I just kind of hang out and chill for a second. But then I ask those important questions where they're like, oh, and then whatnot. A really good example is this last semester, because I was brought in last September. So this has been my first full semester, way excited. But what I did is I noticed that some of the students, like, let's say they preferred the 3D printing, but they didn't know anything about like the sewing area that we have available in our Makerspace. So I'm like, okay, pick something, anything that you're not familiar with, and trust me, I watch them, and they know it, and make a project. You could be anything you want, as long as I can come up to you and be like, how did you make that, literally? bit by bit. And so they did. A lot of them did pick the sewing thing. So they made things from like a pencil pouch to a pillow to a bowl koozie. I had others that weren't familiar with like 3D printing and do some design themselves, and it was like a duck with a frog hat. You know, whatever makes them happy, I was fine with it as long as they did their own training. And they helped each other out. They became more of a team about it. We even did a group photo at the end of the semester. It was really, really good. And then it gets them talking, going, oh, but what about this? Hey, we learned this, but what about that? You know that this isn't added to your training for the public, because we do have LibGuides that guides everyone through how to use each of our services, which is really, really good. So it gave them more of a voice about how the lab is looking to the public view as well. Did that kind of answer your question? Okay.
We may have already hit our time, but I mean, if there are any other questions, I mean, we're not in a huge hurry. So like if anybody does have a final question, we'll be happy to take that. And it looks like there is one.
Okay, so is this on? Yeah. Okay. If I heard you mention micro-credentialing earlier, and you wanted to do more community involvement as well. Have you considered working with the UFM or maybe Manhattan Art Center to offer micro-credentialing and that sort of thing?
I'll answer that and just say both. Certainly, it's been thrown around a lot. We've talked about it a lot, and I think some of it is I hate to say this, it's more kind of like an issue of our own capacity. Like there are things we want to do, and we really need to have that kind of workshop kind of coordination going a little bit better. And most of our workshops, I think we've done a good job of getting them off the ground, but they maybe haven't been as consistent as we'd like. And so getting those kind of partnerships going is a really big part of it. And I think what happened is we've just had some talks that did not go much further than the initial stage. But it gets talked about a lot, and those are the two that keep coming up. And so if you're with either of those groups, you might want to stick around a little bit. We'd be happy to talk about that. But I mean, that's absolutely, I know it, for me especially right now, that is so massively on my mind. Like we really need to be doing a lot more of the instruction about the technologies that we have and the different types of resources. It has to be something more than just what we have in the space and the brain trust that we have locally. So thank you for bringing that up.
I had one other thing. Do you work with the local school districts as well, like the high school and that sort of thing?
I'm on the Manhattan High Tech Advisory Committee, and then we also have quite a few hosted school visits. So when they come out to they come out to us right now, but we have made a few trips out to schools as well and brought technology with us and given talks. And but when we have people come to us, we try to make it an activity, not just like a typical tour, because kids get pretty bored quickly with tours. But if we have activities and we plan things, our space is fairly small, but we can split people up into different areas, and then they can explore those different technologies, and we give them challenges and prompts and things like that, and they'll record themselves. And it's really, I'd say that's one of the most rewarding aspects, actually, is working with younger folks and seeing how they can look at something differently, or you see that spark that's inside of them that comes from working with some of the things that we can offer. Thank you.
And I noticed that there were several questions in the Boothe app. Is there any possibility of those getting answered maybe later or online or something?
I was going to ask our Boothe expert that question because, yeah, there are 3 of them in there, and I'd like to get those answered. So I will see what we can do.
Can we answer them?
I mean, we can try. I don't know how soon, if they have anything else in this room, but we can try. The first one, Jeff, is what are your thoughts on content AI and current AI integration within the Sunderland Innovation Lab?
What are my thoughts on the current integration that we have, or where are we going with it, kind of?
On the current.
I mean, I like where we're at, but I feel like it's not far enough for sure. AI is on a lot of people's minds. And I think, so artificial intelligence, I tend to refer to it as sort of an umbrella term. There's a lot that fits under that. Machine learning is a big part of it. I think robotics, without sounding science fiction-y, I think what I've been following in robotics, especially some people may have, just only about a year ago, think people were calling it very gimmicky to have like humanoid robotics, but if anybody's paying attention to that scene, it is moving so massively, and the human-to-human experience is so natural that I think it makes sense to have a humanoid robot sitting at a desk or communicating with us. But we're seeing that happen. So I'd like to have more of that in that space. I'd like to be able to have more of the understanding of that we have authority over these things, and so that people can do more trial and error, more curriculum enhancement, more integration with the school system. Like, these are things that are only going to be moving faster and faster to that magical realm that people are just going to be constantly consuming it. And I think that's our biggest challenge actually right now. That's why we haven't really advanced it much, is that we have a computer lab, and it's running an alpaca-based chatbot on it that's an organizational asset. But what I'm seeing is people come in and they use things like Stable Diffusion to create images. They're using Music Gen to create audio, and they're amused by that, but then they kind of go on their way, and we don't see those people come back to sit down and experiment with it on their own. Like, they'll see it during a tour or something, and they just love it. But it's that experimenting side of it that we're not getting a lot of tie-in. That's really where that curriculum and the workshop type needs come in. But I would definitely like to do more than what we're doing right now.
And even to iterate to that point, I think we're going to start seeing more and more AI in all of our aspects of work. So I know that I've been privy to give to actually share, and I know we're way over time, but as a content creator, I've been able to get access to Google using some of the new technology. So like, they have a new app that actually generates music without any musical experience. So you can literally just generate, and we did a collab with For Real. So there's going to be some pretty significant opportunities kind of coming down the pipeline from Google, I know for sure. Because like I said, they just have released this beta over, I think it was like last summer, and it's really neat to kind of see what technology is being developed with media. Of course, Photoshop is integrated with the Firefly feature, so a lot of students are using that now. So we just seen a significant increase in AI. So I'm here for it. So.
So Jeff, there's about 4 more here, but I'm going to try and get a couple that are quick and maybe more important. Funding, do users directly support the lab
Renee, I'm
cost?
sorry, they're calling time because
Okay.
we're going way over. But
Okay.
but
All
thank
right.
you, everybody, for this.
We will see if we can get those
We'll
answered
respond.
somehow publicly.
Thank you all. Take care. Please join us on the tour.
There we go.